From the absolute weirdest tee shots to pros losing tournaments because of one crazy ruling. These are the most bizarre moments ever witnessed in golf history. And first we start with number 15. All right, this hole is where players usually strategize, and Bryson DeChambeau decided to ignore all of that. It was Friday at the 2021 Ryder Cup. Whistling Straits, hole 5, a long dogleg right par 5 stretching nearly 600 yards. Most players, they aimed left, laid up short of the corner, and played it smart. But not Bryson. He pulled out the driver and aimed at, well, nothing. Just open air over trees, sand, and blind trouble. The line didn't even seem possible. The commentators were confused. The fans were stunned. And then he launched it. The ball took off like a missile, cleared the dogleg completely, and landed 417 yards from the tee, perfectly placed in the fairway. It looked like something out of a video game. People weren't cheering. They were laughing in disbelief. Now, sitting just 72 yards from the green on a par 5, Bryson chipped it tight to about 4 feet and dropped the eagle putt without blinking. One swing turned a multi-shot hole into a driver wedge eagle combo. It was ridiculous. It was reckless. And it was brilliant. Even his teammates couldn't believe what they saw, but for Bryson, just another hold. At number 14, what started as a routine recovery turned into one of the most bizarre rules situations of the season. Sam Burns' tee shot on a par 5 during the third round of the 2023 Scottish Open found a steep fairway bunker. Not ideal, but nothing he hadn't seen before. The lip was high, higher than most fairway bunkers, but for Sam, that just meant hitting it a little cleaner, a little steeper. No problem. He stepped in, took his stance, and fired one out at full speed. Well, almost. The ball rocketed straight into the top of the bunker wall, piercing the thick sod face at what looked like bullet speed, and then stopped. Not in the sand, not on the grass, but in the wall, lodged, just sitting there like it was stuck in time. Burns called for a ruling. If a ball is embedded in its own pitch mark, a player's entitled to relief. Same goes for certain seam lies in link-style sod walls. This looked like both, or neither. 10 minutes passed, officials inspected, debated, and DP World Tour's Andy McPhee joined in. And finally, the verdict came. No free relief. The ball wasn't embedded in a pitch mark. It wasn't clearly in a seam. It was just awkwardly wedged in the face. So Sam had to play it. He took a delicate swing, only to watch the ball roll right back into the bunker. A few shots later, he walked off with a triple bogey. Because sometimes in golf, even the grass has an attitude. Now, number 13. What are the odds the world's number 1 golfer 4-putts the same green 2 days in a row? It happened in 2014 at the BMW Championship at Cherry Hills. Saturday 3rd round, par 3 12th hole. Rory McIlroy stood over a 19-foot downhill birdie putt. Routine stuff, nothing too tricky until it was. His first putt ran about 3 feet past. Not ideal, but nothing dangerous yet. Then he missed the comebacker. Now it's a bogey putt. Missed again. Now it's panic time. He stepped up to clean up what should have been the final tap and lipped it out from just under 5 feet. 4 putts, double bogey from 19 feet. The crowd didn't know whether to groan or laugh. And Rory, he just stared at the hole, stunned. But the wildest part? He had done the exact same thing on the same green the day before. A 4-putt that ended in a triple. It was the kind of mistake you'd expect on a Saturday morning with your buddies. Not from the top-ranked golfer in the world. But to his credit, Rory took it like a pro. It's not my worst. At least I can laugh about it and move on. And somehow he did. He closed with a 66 on Sunday and still finished tied for 8th. But that green at Cherry Hills, it definitely had his number that week. Number 12 starts with a shot that had everything. Thick, rough, huge pressure, and an NBA-style mic drop that backfired instantly. It was day 3 of the 2024 President's Cup at Royal Montreal. Team USA was grinding. The internationals were trying to claw back in. Si Woo Kim stepped up on the par 4 16th hole with his team trailing late in a tense foursomes match against Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay. Then came the shot. Buried in gnarly rough, barely a look at the pin, Kim went for the boldest option imaginable. A high, soft flop that needed to carry the fringe and stop on a dime. He launched it high, and then boom! The ball landed, took one skip, and dropped straight into the cup. Birdie. The crowd went wild. And Kim? He lost it in the best way possible. He started running across the green, pressing his hands together under his cheek, mimicking Steph Curry's signature night-night gesture. Not once, but over and over. He looked like he was tucking the entire American team into bed. One problem though, there were still 2 holes left, and Team USA wasn't asleep just yet. Cantlay birdied the 18th. The Americans won the match, and just like that, the celebration turned into a meme. Si Woo's shot was iconic, but maybe, just maybe, he tucked the Americans in a little too early. Coming in at number 11. You ever see a shot so outrageous, so downright impossible, that even Jack Nicklaus had to stop and say, yeah, that might be the greatest one I've ever seen? Well, it happened on the final hole of the 2001 World Cup of Golf. Team USA, Tiger Woods and David Duval were in deep trouble. The stakes, enormous. They needed an eagle just to force a playoff. Duval gave it everything on the approach, but left Tiger with a nightmare. A blind chip shot from a steep downslope, buried in thick, rough, short-sided to an elevated green. Basically, the kind of shot that turns grown pros into weekend hackers. But here comes the best part. Tiger stares it down. Crowd silent. Duval barely breathes. And then, Tiger makes a swing that looks like pure desperation, only to watch the ball pop out of the rough like a missile, land soft, trickle, and disappear. It drops. Eagle. The gallery explodes. Duval nearly collapses. Tiger just nods like he knew it all along. The shot tied the match at 24 under and forced a playoff. Sure, they lost it to Ernie Els and Retief Goosen from South Africa, but no one remembers that part. Everyone remembers the chip. Here we are at number 10. What happens when your golf ball ends up in the water without even hitting a shot? Saturday at the 2004 Players' Championship, Ian Poulter had just marked his ball on the tricky par 4 fourth green. No drama, no trouble. Until he tried to put the ball back in play. With a casual swipe of the hand, probably fueled by a little frustration, he flicked the ball to the side and watched in horror as it flew straight into the water. Now here's where it gets ridiculous. Because the ball had already been marked, the rules required Poulter to finish the hole with that exact same ball, lose it, and he'd be slapped with a 2-stroke penalty. And let's be real, no golfer wants to take a double bogey because of a tossing error. So what did Team Poulter do? They went fishing. Literally. His physio, Kambabra, stripped down to his boxers and dove into the water to save the tournament. After some wet and wild scrambling, he surfaced with the ball, mission accomplished. Poulter verified it was his, placed it back on the green, and calmly made par like none of that had just happened. A moment of frustration nearly turned into a rules nightmare, until his half-naked physio turned into the hero no one expected. Sliding in at number 9. This was the kind of finish that makes you wonder how it all went wrong so fast. Tommy Fleetwood stood on the 18th tee at the 2025 Travelers Championship with a 1-shot lead. He had played steady, smart golf all day. His drive on the final hole? Absolutely perfect. Center cut, ideal angle, no trouble in sight, no stress. But then came the approach shot, and that's when things started to wobble. Fleetwood didn't chunk it. He didn't blade it. But it wasn't great either. The ball settled far from the flag, leaving him a long-range putt for birdie and a tricky 2-putt for par. Meanwhile, Keegan Bradley, just 1 shot behind, went pin hunting. His approach landed close, just a few feet from the hole. Suddenly, Tommy's margin felt paper thin. So now Fleetwood had to 2-putt. That was the expectation. But his long birdie putt came up short. And not just a little short, he left himself 6 feet. Nasty angle. Bradley's ball still sitting closer. So Tommy steps up, needing this putt just to stay in the game. He rolls it, pure, perfect pace, dead center, and then a sudden twist. The ball kicks slightly right in the final inches. It catches the edge and lips out. Bogey. Replay footage later showed something suspicious near the cup. Maybe a tiny ball mark, maybe an imperfection in the green. Some swore the ball hit something. Others said it was just an untimely misread. Either way, Bradley taps in his birdie. And just like that, Tommy Fleetwood's win slipped away. Not with a shank, not with a meltdown, but with one heartbreaking putt that looked perfect. Until it wasn't. Next up, number 8. What's a birdie worth to you? A little risk? A lot of nerves? How about a full-blown club sacrifice? It was the final hole of Nick Hardy's first round at the 2023 3M Open, the long 500-yard par 4 ninth. His tee shot had gone left and left him in a nightmare position, directly behind a thick tree with 184 yards left and a whole lot of water in the way. The smart play? Take a drop, maybe punch out, live to fight another hole. But Hardy didn't come to Minnesota to play it safe. There was no punching through it. If he wanted to go for the green, he had to hook it hard around the trunk. But here comes the problem. His follow-through would send his 9-iron straight into the tree trunk at full speed. He went for it anyway. He took a full swing, committed to the draw, and nailed it. The ball launched, curved beautifully around the tree, and soared over the water, landing just 11.5 feet from the pin. And what about his club? Not so lucky. His 9-iron collided violently with the trunk and came out bent like a pretzel. Hardy held it up, smiling, as if to check if maybe it was just a little off. However, this was probably the shot of his life. He eventually drained the birdie putt and walked away with an impressive 65 in the opening round, just one stroke off the lead. Which brings us at number 7. How do you hit the perfect shot and still manage to screw it up? During the second round of the 2019 Tour Championship, Paul Casey stood on the 18th fairway, staring down a 248-yard approach shot. He reached for what he thought was his 4-iron and let it rip. Pure contact, beautiful flight, right at the flag. For a second, everything looked like magic, but then something didn't add up. The ball didn't just reach the green, it flew past it. One hopped into thick rough behind the flag. Casey looked stunned. His caddy, Johnny McLaren? He immediately covered his mouth as if trying to hide a laugh or maybe a scream. And then came the realization. Turns out McLaren handed him the wrong club. Casey didn't hit a 4-iron at all. It was a 3-iron, one with the same head, only bent stronger, and with no number stamped on it. In his words, my 3-iron and 4-iron are actually the same head. One is bent stronger than the other. One's got a little 4 on it and the 3's got nothing on it. He laughed it off afterward, but still took full responsibility. It's all on me. A perfect strike with the wrong club and a caddy who knew it the moment it left the face. Golf doesn't get much more awkward than that. At number 6, imagine hitting a perfect tee shot, only to find out you weren't even on the right hole. It happened during the final round of the 2021 Hero World Challenge in the Bahamas. Jordan Spieth and Henrik Stenson were cruising along, reaching the par 5 ninth. They stepped up, aimed down the fairway, and smoked their drives. All good, right? Not quite. Unbeknownst to them, the tournament organizers had switched things up overnight. The 9th and 17th tee boxes had been swapped, the tee they had used all week for the 9th hole. That was now the 17th tee. And they had just blasted tee shots off it, on the wrong hole. Midway down the fairway, officials approached. There was no way around it. Both players had teed off from the wrong location. The result? A 2-stroke penalty each, plus the long walk back to the proper tee to start the hole all over again. Spieth went on to card a triple bogey 8. Stenson made double. Beautiful tee shots, wrong tee box. Welcome to professional golf, where even walking to the wrong patch of grass can cost you everything. Kicking off the top 5? What happens when a guy the media just called overrated flips the golf world upside down in a matter of minutes? It was May 2015, the Players' Championship, final round at TPC Sawgrass. Rickie Fowler was 5 shots back, standing on the 13th tee, fading into the background while the leaders battled it out up ahead. And then, something snapped. He birdied 13. Okay, nice, but not headline-worthy. He parred 14. Still quiet. Then came 15, birdie. And then, like pouring gasoline on a fire, boom, an eagle at the par 5 16th. Suddenly, fans started paying attention. Cameras locked in. Fowler was charging, but he wasn't done. He stepped onto the infamous island green at 17, stared down the flag, and stuck it to inside 5 feet. Birdie. Oh, and he birdied 18 too, by the way. That closing stretch? 6 holes, 6 under. One of the most explosive finishes in golf history. In less than an hour, Fowler had gone from forgotten to tied for the lead at 12 under, forcing a playoff with Sergio Garcia and Kevin Kisner. But here's the craziest part. The playoff was even more nerve-wracking. The 3 advanced to a 3-hole aggregate playoff over holes 16 through 18. Garcia dropped out, leaving Fowler and Kisner deadlocked. That meant sudden death. Back to the island green at 17. Fowler went first and stuck it to 5 feet. Kisner missed his birdie try from 12. Fowler didn't miss. With one last clutch putt, he shut the door and completed one of the greatest comebacks golf has ever seen. At number 4, you imagine watching a putt so slow, so awkward, that you start to question your own sense of time. It happened at the 2022 WGC Match Play in Austin. Keegan Bradley, facing off against Jordan Spieth in his opening match, walked up to a pretty basic 6-foot putt. Nothing dramatic, just a routine stroke to have the hole, but then he stopped. He bent down, held up his fingers, closed his eyes, and started walking around the green like he was solving a geometry puzzle. The seconds ticked by, then more. 30 seconds, 40, close to a full minute. He was using aim point, the method where players feel the slope with their feet and use finger spacing to gauge break. But the longer it went on, the more the crowd began to murmur. You could feel the discomfort. People weren't watching a golf shot, they were watching a man perform live calculus in slow motion. And when he finally stood over the ball, he missed it. The clip went viral instantly. Fans called it painful, nightmare fuel, and the opposite of entertainment. But hey, at least we all had time to make a sandwich, file our taxes, and reconsider our life choices before he missed it. You've made it to our top 3. Sometimes it takes just one man to flip the script for an entire team. It was late Saturday at the 2012 Ryder Cup. Europe was trailing badly, 10-6, and the Americans had all the momentum. Poulter and Rory McIlroy were battling Zach Johnson and Jason Duffner in the final 4-ball match of the day. If they lost, the mountain would be almost impossible to climb. Then Ian Poulter caught fire. On the 13th hole, he dropped a birdie putt to tie the hole. On 14, another birdie, this time to win the hole. At 15, he rolled in his 3rd straight. At 16, he buried another putt, 4 in a row. Then came 17, the toughest of them all, and Poulter drained his 5th straight birdie to stun the Americans and take the lead. 5 consecutive birdies under Ryder Cup pressure against a U.S. crowd, with Europe's hopes hanging in the balance. Poulter's fist pumps got louder, his eyes wider. You could feel the shift happening. That final birdie on 17 sealed the point, and more than that, it sent a message. Europe wasn't done. By the next day, that fire had spread. Europe completed the miracle at Medinah, pulling off one of the greatest comebacks in Ryder Cup history. But it all started with one man and 5 birdies that changed everything. For number 2, we've got a moment that started with embarrassment and ended with absolute brilliance. It was the final of the 2022 WGC Dell Technologies match play at Austin Country Club. Scottie Scheffler, already making a strong case as the guy to beat, stepped onto the par 5 12th hole in control, until he wasn't. After reaching just off the green in 3, he had a routine chip. Nothing fancy. But somehow, he flinched. The contact was off. The ball popped weakly into the bunker just a few feet in front of him. It was one of those shots that make you wince. And just like that, the advantage flipped. The pressure was back on. But Scheffler barely blinked. Standing in the sand, he reset, took a deep breath, and then did the unthinkable. He holed it. One clean swing, a soft splash, perfect spin, and the ball tracked straight into the cup. Birdie. What started as a flub turned into one of the cleanest recoveries of the tournament. And finally, number 1. Imagine tuning into a major championship expecting Tiger, Phil, or Ernie to take over. And instead, you're watching a guy ranked 169th in the world walk up the 18th fairway like he owns the place. That was the 2003 PGA Championship at Oak Hill. A brutal course, a stacked field, and somehow one of the biggest mysteries in the field was still hanging around late on Sunday. His name? Shawn Michael. And unless you were a hardcore golf nut, you probably had no idea who he was. No wins, no buzz, barely any major experience, but day after day he stayed near the top, posting rounds of 69, 68, 69. By Saturday night, he was tied for the lead. No one expected him to hold on. And then came Sunday, final hole. Shawn was still holding the lead with 174 yards to the flag. Tight fairway, small target, and this unknown underdog pulls out a 7-iron and hits possibly the greatest shot of his life. The ball lands, checks, and stops 2 inches from the hole. 2 inches, tap in, done. Shawn McKeel had just won a major, his first and only PGA Tour victory. No one saw it coming, not even him. Later that night, he celebrated with a Wendy's cheeseburger and got invited to hang with a rock star. Because of course he did. Golf, sometimes, is just weird like that. Oh, and now that you're still with us, we have another great video for you right in the middle of the screen. Enjoy.